also an amateur photographer who mainly shoots film. Today you can join me on a photo walk where I will be talking about how I'm staying inspired and motivated during winter and weather like this, and how you could too. This is already the 9th episode of my series Frame by Frame Photo Walks, where I'm taking you with me on some of my regular photo walks, giving you a glimpse into my thought and work process while I'm out taking my photos, and also talking about the outcomes afterwards. So if that sounds interesting to you, I do have a playlist on my channel where I have all the episodes that I did so far, and if you want to, you can check them out. And if you want to see even more of my photography, you can always stop by my Instagram or even my website, and they're both linked in the description. Despite talking a little bit about winter depression today, we're gonna try and take some pictures today, and I have a Canon A1 with a 28 to 70mm lens, and today we are shooting with Kodak Gold 200 because this is my go-to film stock. First of all, I want to say that these are 90% my own ways on how to stay busy and inspired. So they might not work for you because this is based on my personal experience. But either way, let's start with number 1, which is go out anyways. A lot of people don't go out during the cold period and when it's bad weather. But you can still use the cold winter months to practice your photography. Even though if it is cold and dark outside, it doesn't matter, because you still always have the opportunity to just take your camera and go on a walk, whenever, wherever. It might be, or at least it is for me like that you won't get the desired outcomes that you were hoping for. But what it does is that it makes you more comfortable with your camera, if you are of course not already, and it also keeps your skills in shape. Try out new types of photography. Even though if it doesn't seem like it at first, and it might be frustrating if you lose inspiration during winter, there are so many opportunities to try new types of photography during this time. For example, instead of going outside if you usually do that, maybe try indoor spaces like malls, architectural indoor photography. Architecture photography is especially great if you have cloudy, foggy days, if it has a little bit of atmosphere, especially if you live in a bigger city like New York where you have higher buildings or skyscrapers and often the clouds are really low. Or you have a lot of fog if you live in, for example, Oregon or Washington area. So there are probably many new spaces, or maybe also old spaces that look completely different, that you can check out and kind of experiment with. Lighting. Look for interesting light situations. I lately experienced that the winter sun causes shadows to be longer, and light and shadow can often have a higher contrast between each other than they do during, for example, summer or spring. There actually have been quite a lot of times recently that I walked through the city and I see these light beams through the buildings that I really like to use to highlight certain areas of my image, like maybe a subject, maybe a group of people, maybe even a building, a shop. You get it. The best light for my taste is always between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on a sunny day, of course, because I think that is not too strong, but you still get these nice hard shadows that you can use to kind of make up interesting compositions. focus on a project. Many photographers actually do zines. If you never heard of zines, they're basically like mini magazines, fanzines. Usually they're themed, but you can also just make a collection of your photography. Basically anything that you want it to be. And you can make one with photos that you already have from the past, or you make a completely new one and look for a topic or a theme that you'd like to work on, and then go out for a specific time and just take pictures for it. The past 2.5 months I have been working on a zine that focuses on New York City trash, which also luckily does not necessarily depend on any weather conditions, so it doesn't really matter if I'm out during a gray day or a sunny day. Either way, the photos will have the theme that I wanted it to have. And when it comes to my zine, I will be sharing the zine very soon when it's done. So definitely stay tuned for that, because I think that it is turning out great so far. A project like this can just keep you busy during these times, and you also go outside to challenge yourself, maybe explore a new medium, maybe explore a new genre or a topic. Experiment with the weather. I always prefer to go out on a sunny day 90% of the time, simply because it fits my personal style of photography, because I like my photography to be warm and I like to play with light lately, and I like it to be colorful. It's much harder to get these things during a day like this, but there are many ways to experiment with the weather after all. Especially rain and snow are quite popular when it comes to different weather scenarios for photography, not only for like street or urban, but also for landscape photography and probably many more genres. An example for a rainy day activity, or maybe we could also call it theme, you could go out and look for reflections in water and puddles, or maybe even wet surface reflections on objects, and try to play around with those, find interesting compositions, get creative. And if you still prefer the sun like I do, I always try to adjust my personal schedule so I can use the sunny days here in New York City as much as possible, which lately we do have quite a lot of them. But of course this won't work for everyone, especially if you depend on your work schedule. Look for bright and colorful scenes. As I said, my photography style is usually very vibrant, very colorful. So that is usually what I'm looking for when I'm out taking pictures most of the time. But on a gray day, usually you don't really find the colors because everything looks gray. Though there are some, and you just have to know where they are, because colors can mix up a gray day. And they still have the ability to give your photos that certain pop of color and warmth. An option for this would be to look for places that have nice lighting, and probably this would be artificial lighting because the sun is not existent. So we're talking about street vendors, we're talking food carts, shops, public places that have lighting, and so on, because these places can still provide your photo with the specific flair that you're looking for. Try out night photography. You can literally do night photography in any kind of weather, because the dark is always dark. It is not different in summer than it is in winter or autumn. It's always the same, especially though in winter, of course, we have more darkness, so that might be an advantage here. And it also gives you the chance to practice and learn a new skill, of course, if you haven't done night photography so far or you're not very experienced with it. Though in winter, be prepared for the cold temperatures. It depends on where you live, but here in New York it's really cold, so I always make sure when I know that I'm out during darker times that I always bundle up to stay warm. So get yourself a nice winter jacket, some thermal wear, gloves, and maybe a hat. And my last tip, travel. When the place where you live really sucks during winter and you can't afford it, maybe consider traveling to a different place that is warmer and sunnier. This does not necessarily mean that you basically have to fly across the world, but you could even take the train to another town or another city, maybe another state, or go on a little photography road trip over the weekend. Go explore a place that you have maybe never been to. I've spent the last few years living in the Netherlands and before that in Germany. And if you have ever been there before, you might know that our winters are cold, gray, rainy, and windy. Like all the time, not over exaggerating. All the time. So being in New York City right now, where for me it has been surprisingly sunny during the past 2 months, it's like an absolute dream, because if I go outside, my camera is not instantly flying away and drowning in the next puddle. And that was the 9th episode of Frame by Frame Photo Walks. I would actually love to hear how you stay inspired during the cold months. And maybe, who knows, you can help out others too. If you want to check out more of my photography, make sure to check out the playlist or even my Instagram and my website that are both linked down in the description. Enjoy the last frames for today and we will hopefully see each other on our next vlog. Bye!